Hello, and welcome back. In today's video, we will look at some practical solutions, which we can use in our daily lives to help us prepare for, and negotiate, an economic slowdown, or a recession. We will look at ways we can minimize the negative impacts of, and maybe even gain from, such conditions. For this, it would be helpful if we first understood the reasons behind the growing concern today of a shrinking foreseen in the global economy. The first reason is the rising trend of nationalism and populism all over the world. The second reason, which is an outcome of the previous one, is a reversal in the trend of globalization. Globalization was the single most important reason behind the spectacular lifting of a huge chunk of humanity, most significantly in China and India, out of poverty in the last quarter of a century. Instead of implementing measures which would alleviate poverty, pro-rich and anti-poor measures, being implemented by governments and their institutions, almost all over the world, are sucking out buying power from the masses. Next, with the application of artificial intelligence in more and more areas, especially in areas of thinking and decision-making, is leading to another reduction in the need for human involvement. In a vicious circle, economic stress is forcing corporations to move to higher and higher levels of automation. Lastly, there is economic threat, on account of the huge disruption caused by global warming, the impacts of which we do not yet fully know. Throughout the human history, it was almost an eternal truth that, with the advance of civilization, and resulting global cooperation, more and more jobs will continue to be created for the increasing number of humans on Earth, and also make the quality of life better for all of us. However, for the first time in the recorded history of our world, on account of the combined impact of militant nationalism, deglobalization and increasing pervasiveness of AI and automation, the job opportunities in the world are going to contract. For the first time in a long time, we have data which shows that a large number of Indians fell below poverty line. A large number of existing workforce will see a loss of jobs. The jobs lost will far outnumber the new jobs created by technology. While automation will affect a lot of blue-collar jobs like factory workers and drivers etc., AI will replace white-collar and analytical jobs, like telemarketing, bookkeeping, payroll, receptionists, couriers, proofreaders, IT support, market research analysts, and advertising and retail salespeople. Next, an increasing number of old people, and those living on fixed incomes will be affected. The contracting global economy will see a lot of premature retirements. This will lead to lower standards of living, and increase poverty. The most lasting and pronounced impact will be on the millennial generation, and Generation Z, who will be the first human generation to face a net reduction in number of work opportunities. As the changes are monumental, individuals and societies will need to evolve to meet the challenge and survive. With the added level of complication, added by the slowdowns and recession, spreading and intensifying globally. Unlike past economic crisis, in previous century, this one is not triggered by a crisis in a few geographies, or a few sectors, like property or money and securities markets. The causes of this recession are truly global, and embedded in the structure, and the way world economies have configured themselves post-2008. Now that we have a good idea of why we need to take tighter reins of our financial lives and make changes, let us start and take a look at what we should be doing to survive in hard economic times. We will discuss things we can do under three broad groups. Things we can do to reduce expenses on what we are already spending on, and what we cannot avoid. Next, identified and avoiding expenses that we are influenced into making, which we do not need to, or mean to. And finally, making fundamental changes in the way we approach personal finance, and life in general, so that we can be better prepared for tough times. Let us start with the most ubiquitous mode of spending we use: credit cards. Credit cards and its surrogates, like digital wallets, have become a load-bearing pillar of our financial existence, which is why how we handle them can make a lot of impact on how successfully we survive this financial turbulence. One of the features of credit cards people can take advantage of is by taking advantage of the time value of money. By using effectively the facility by which credit cards allow us to make an expenditure immediately, but pay a credit card bill later. This gives us time to hold on to our cash longer in our accounts, and earn interest. For example, if you get billed on the 15th of each month, and your card allows you to pay up to 5th of next month, then, for expenditure you make between 16th January and 15th February, your money goes out of your account only on 5th of March. This saves you interest in your bank account. Now, if you can delay any expenditure, without incurring any delayed payment fee, from 14th to after 15th, then you get a whole extra month before your cash flows out of your account. This way, you can time your recurring expense payments, and also big purchases, on which you have time flexibility, and get maximum free credit period, as long as there are no due date misses, or discounts lost. It is very common for people these days to buy things, especially impulse buys, which they cannot afford, on installment. This way, by splitting the list price, you end up buying, with your future earnings. What people fail to realize, that there are no free lunches in a cutthroat economy. For this reason, it is important to check whether you are losing out on a big cash discount on the list price, which could have saved you a lot of money, by not using the installment option, with more and more cards offering lifetime free options. You should look at your portfolio of cards, and get rid of cards which charge annual maintenance fee, or other transaction, or periodic charges, unless they offer some tangible, and financially justifiable benefit. Credit cards are a mixed blessing. While on one hand they free us from cash, and give us many value-added benefits, they also, by allowing us to spend today what we will earn tomorrow, induce us to live beyond our means, and can make us fiscally irresponsible. This is why it is important that we use credit cards as a useful tool for us, rather than us becoming a tool in the hands of credit cards, banks and marketers. After credit cards, we come to examining what we can do with the large number of accounts we hold these days. These can be bank, credit cards, digital wallets, loyalty cards, social media accounts, subscriptions, utility and services, shopping platforms, etc. We liberally hand over our personal, financial, and behavioral data, free of cost, to more organizations and corporations than we can manage, or even know. For this reason, it is important that you make it a habit to keep a checklist of all accounts and services you keep subscribing to, and periodically do an inventory of active accounts you have, and costs and benefits of keeping them in operation. When you have multiple unused bank accounts, it means money lying stuck in minimum balance maintenance, or attracts fee for not maintaining the minimum balance. Close all such accounts and consolidate to free up your cash for use or investment. In context of this, it is also important to ensure that all your free-floating cash and investments are not kept in a single bank, however safe and secure it may feel. Spread out your banking, savings, and investments. With the concept of bail-in becoming a reality, unlike in the past, where government and central banks used to bail out and rescue banks from losses. Now, the eventuality that your hard-earned money, deposited in the bank, can be used to fund banks' frauds and losses, for no fault of your own, and the chances of you losing all your life's savings, can become a horrible reality, if all your business is with a single bank. You also need to check your portfolio of accounts, to examine all bank accounts, which started off as zero balance, or no charge salary accounts, or utility accounts, which, when you opened them, were offered as free trials. Check that they have not started debiting charges and fees. Also make sure that free trial period offers on software and services, websites, and app purchases, where you gave your credit card information only for verification, have not automatically started charging you after the expiry of the free trial. Next, check any other accounts for stock, currency or commodity trading, demat, and credit card accounts which are not in use, on which annual charges may be accumulating. These have a habit of coming as nasty surprises later, and may require unnecessary running around, and legal and other costs, to close them. Whenever you close any account or subscription, keep the evidence of closure of the account securely in your records. If you have multiple phone or internet connections, where you use one as the main one, and the other as backup, in case the main one is down, or gets maxed out, then keep the backup connection as prepaid, and on the smallest cost required, to keep it active. Whenever the need arises to use it, you can always use a booster pack, to increase its capacity. As in case of free trial offers, and additional bank and card accounts, which we discussed earlier, get rid of all phone or internet connections that were initially free or cheap, but do not make economic sense now. Even if it is a recharge account, don't just stop using it, but actively deactivate, and keep the evidence of deactivation with you. When moving out of a city, state, or country permanently, make sure all your local accounts are closed, and dues cleared, with the proof of closure in your records. If you realize that you need to do this, after you have moved, it may cost much more, and may even have legal consequences. With a change in people's habits in where they get information and entertainment from, and increasing use of streaming services, you could consider dropping some channels, or cutting the cord on your cable, or discontinuing your DTH connection altogether. You can instead use your streaming account on TV. Instead of using a big brand DTH, you could explore free DTH boxes if your information needs are basic. In the same way, having an HD set-top box, or subscribing to HD channels, makes sense only if you have an HD display. Likewise, if you have a small living room, having a large, high-definition screen would be counterproductive. Now we move on to handling of loans and mortgages. With a proliferation in the variety of financing and debt options, and on account of an increased sense of comfort among people, for living on borrowed time and money, the way people structure and manage their debt and mortgage portfolio assumes a huge significance. With falling lending rates, on account of central banks reducing repo rates, you should keep exploring the avenues for swapping your existing loan for a cheaper one. However, while doing this, it is important to consider the cost of short closure of old loan, and processing fee involved in such a swap. Any swap should only be tried if the net gain is still substantial enough to justify all the cost and the trouble. When you lose a job, or see a permanent decline or stoppage of income, and you also have a loan or mortgage, then it is very important to ensure that you still have the ability to service the loan regularly. Because a mortgage keeps accumulating interest, and in case of a default, the interest is compounded. If you have a feeling that you may not be able to meet your repayment schedule for some time, it is very important to liquidate your loan, even if it means disposing of some asset, or liquidating a lower yielding investment. If you do not do this, at some point of time this unserviced loan will grow exponentially, and outgrow, and overwhelm, all your income, savings, and assets. Also, if you are later forced to sell an asset in distress, or under force, it fetches you much lesser value. In times of financial difficulty, a person needs to access credit more frequently, and for larger amounts, as compared to when money was coming in comfortably. In such a condition, it is critical to keep your credit score high. Your credit score decides whether you will get any loans in future, and also at what rates of interest. For this, you need to be aware of factors which affect your credit score. Paying existing mortgages regularly, and not using your full limit, for a prolonged periods of time, helps build your credit score. On the other hand, applying for credit too many times, whether through banks or online, delayed payments, foreclosures, insolvency and debt write-offs, penalty charges on your loans, frequent use of installment payments, are some of the things that affect your credit score negatively. Having too many types of credits, like home loan, farm loan, card loan, personal loan, vehicle loan, etc., and frequent swapping of mortgages also, are an evidence of your inability to manage your finances, and affect your credit score. Your credit-related data stays in the rating agency's records for typically at least 7 years. So once your credit rating goes down, it takes a very long time to recover and improve. The way we approach spending our money makes a big difference on how much money we end up wasting or saving, whether it is on things and services we use regularly, or things of higher value, which we do not buy frequently. While expenditures like property and investments, on account of their size, complexity, and area-wise differences, need separate videos on them, there are some common things to consider when making spending decisions, especially in tough economic times, like a recession. When making a decision of buying something, apart from your usual market or source of supply, always look for new options and platforms to buy the same thing. You can always find good deals online, and also auctions, both offline and online, and at garage sales. Also, see if there are any offers or coupons that can be used to get discounts. Just because you got a good deal at some place last time, does not mean there is not a better place available now. The same thing goes for an asset, or property, which you plan to sell or replace. You can look for online selling, auctions, or hold a sale, to dispose it off. People usually have a higher imaginary value for things they owned. This is usually on account of their history with that object, or their idea of its great condition. Things that do not make a real difference to the new buyer. Sometimes, it is just greed and stubbornness, which makes them hold on to an item. If one looks realistically, the item that has no utility for you, just ends up taking space, and sometimes, may even need maintenance, when you can actually get a real gain, by way of exchange discount, or cash in your hand. When buying things you use sporadically, or when you have not yet made up your mind for making a big financial commitment, look for opportunities of shared ownership. For example, when you move to a new town, try to look for shared accommodation, or finding a roommate. Likewise, if you are a business owning a premises, and your business is hit by a slowdown, you may consider letting out part of your establishment, especially to a business that adds value to your own business, or attracts customers. For other services also, which you use, you can look for communal alternatives, like ride-sharing and carpooling, and using public transport, instead of personal transport, which can save you money. Same approach of shared ownership can be applied for equipment, tools, and implements which are used seasonally, or sparingly. These can be bought communally, rather than by everyone, in an area, village or community. This formula can be applied to create a community bank of hardware tools, lawn mowers, farm equipment, etc. There is great economic value in self-sufficiency. For example, instead of depending too much on food delivery and takeaway, try cooking more at home. Also, try to widen your area of housework and skills of home repair and maintenance, instead of depending on handyman for everything. This habit should be inculcated in children very early in life. Another example can be, when traveling or vacationing, you can plan and research your travel, and try to find good deals on your own, instead of depending on a travel agent. This way you will get a richer local experience and knowledge of your destination, and also be able to save on money. You should cultivate the attitude of self-sufficiency in yourself, and also inculcate the same in young girls and boys, a culture to be handy around the house. Starting off at a young age, with small things, like operating gadgets, and slowly graduating to making minor repairs, like fixing a fuse or an electrical installation, making upgrades to equipment, and other work, like assembling furniture or painting, and doing minor structural repairs around the house and in the garage. This can make you a more independent and complete human being, and a valued member of your household, and the community at large. Developing on the theme of self-sufficiency, you can adopt practices, like having a kitchen garden, and growing veggies like tomatoes, onion, chilies, etc., on your windowsill. If you have a bigger space, you can try sustainably producing part of your own needs of fruits, vegetables, honey and flowers. Even if you do not have a balcony or a garden, you can still think of growing things that do not require open space or sunlight, like carrots, kale, mushrooms, etc. By experimenting and improvising, you will be astonished by what you can achieve once you make up your mind to reach a goal. With directions and advice available online, help is more abundantly and readily available than ever before in the history of mankind. It always helps to go low-tech. Instead of using electric or otherwise powered gadgets and equipment, like lawnmowers, toothbrushes, shavers, vacuum cleaners, dishwashers, etc., it would be a better idea to do these chores using manual equipment. It makes a lot of sense to sweat, working, rather than working out at a gym, and paying for it. Any act that conserves or preserves resources like air, water or power, is as good for your wallet as it is for the earth. We know that buying in bulk makes sense, because of the discounted rates, but while doing so, perishability of the commodity should always be considered. There is no gain in buying in large amounts, and then throwing away part of it when it spoils. Another wasteful side of bulk buying is that, when we consume from a large package, we tend to take bigger helpings, and thus consume at a faster rate. It is a smart idea to redistribute things that we buy in large containers into smaller quantities for daily use. This tricks our minds, and creates an illusion of scarcity, which makes us use that commodity more carefully. Another common behavioral anomaly is that we always use items, especially the ones we use daily, like toothpaste, shampoo, detergent, fabric whiteners and softeners, etc., in far greater quantities than they are required for being effective, or prescribed by manufacturers, because we pick up these practices mechanically, and do not think twice about such small things we do and regularly. But small things have a way of piling up and creating big impacts. Another fallacy which enforces this behavior is when we start to correlate quantity used with efficacy or value it gives. For example, a point, using more detergent for a load of wash, does not translate into cleaner clothes. The only thing it does is that you end up wasting more water rinsing it off. When you are buying new equipment and gadgets, do not pay for features you will never use. For example, if you do not have internet, or your family does not consume internet-based news or entertainment, or you are buying a TV for a technologically challenged family member who is stubborn and set in their ways, there is no need to buy a smart TV with apps and browsing features. When you are in need of a new feature in your existing equipment, think out of the box. Instead of buying a replacement for the gadget, just for an extra function, try exploring the possibility of finding some add-on device, which may bring the same feature to your existing equipment. For example, instead of buying a smart TV, you can explore devices like TV sticks, to incorporate internet browsing function into your existing TV. In the same way, you can buy plug-on accessories like drives, high-resolution camera, recording device, scanners, etc., for your computer, instead of buying a new computer, just for that one extra feature. Same goes for upgrade of RAM, memory, or processing capacity. You should always do an overall cost-benefit analysis of accessorizing versus upgrade by replacement, and explore all technically viable options before replacing a gadget. Don't make any staple, vegetable, or a condiment an absolute essential in your diet, especially if it is prone to sudden or seasonal variations in supply and prices. Instead, vary your menu to include local, seasonal and fresh vegetables and staples, so you can be free of the unscrupulous operators and hoarders who control the supply chain and exploit your rigid food habits. Now we come to identifying and negotiating the flood of tricks and temptations that swamps us every day. The rule to live by here is, pay for what you are actually getting, and not what you are led to believe you are getting. When spending, one should be driven by the need for the item, or the service, one is buying, and not under the influence of a powerful and well-honed marketing machinery that works round the clock, and on many levels, to manufacture the demand for a product and service, where one did not exist. It is important to develop your ability to take a deep breath, and take a step back, whenever you are faced with an impulse to buy. An impulsive buy, like a Las Vegas wedding, is always followed by a rude awakening, and deep regret. A great deal is no reason to buy something you do not need at all. There are some things you can do to ensure that you do not make a rash and regrettable decision. By taking time out and researching what looks like a fantastic opportunity, looking and comparing with for competing options, and getting opinions from others, are effective ways of stepping back and saving yourself from taking a bad decision. Procrastinating is not such a bad thing, if your procrastinating prevents a regrettable decision. Another popular marketing strategy involves giving what appear to be extreme discounts. The insane percentages distract you from the fact that you did not need the thing at all in the first place. Even if you are getting something that was supposed to cost $100 at a discount of $90, it is still money lost, because that money would have been in your bank, and is instead now spent on something you did not need, and which the seller would have probably needed to spend money on to get rid of. Quantity discounts, where instead of buying one shirt, which cost $100, you are enticed into buying 3 for $200. Then you have ended up spending $100 more, and ended up buying 2 more shirts which may not be to your liking, but you bought it because it seemed like a great deal. However, you can effectively use quantity discounts if you and a couple of your friends want to buy something. In such a case you can use quantity discounts and then spread the benefit of the discount amongst yourselves. We have discussed earlier in the video the working of free or discounted introductory offers by services. These offers are like a drug dealer offering the first dose free to a prospective client, with the hope that they would get hooked onto a substance which they did not need in the first place, and which would bleed them dry while creating a long-term income stream for the dealer. However, you can look for such offers if it is something you were either willing to give a try before making up your mind, or were planning to buy anyway, or it is something which will replace an existing product or service that you want to get rid of. You should be suspicious of sudden opportunities, which seem too good to be true, because they often are. In a recession, there are often mirages, like where you find a shop in a corner, which you always had an eye on, suddenly becoming available at a great price. In such a case, you should research why the previous owner got out of business. Is the location and the community hit by bad times and all the customers gone? Do not sacrifice what may be a perfectly good plan and your dream by implementing it at a bad time and ending up bitter and demoralized. Also, in a recession, there is nothing called a bottom for price. Things always get cheaper, so do not rush into a buy, only to feel what is called buyer's remorse later. Another trap that people frequently fall for are the cashback offers. Supposing there is an offer that requires you to spend $5,000 on groceries in 15 days to get 10% cash back. In such a case, if your expenses on groceries are $3,000 and you buy products worth $5,000, it means you ended up spending $2,000 extra just to get $500 back. However, if your normal spend was $5,000 or above, or the $2,000 extra was spent on, say, buying extra grocery, which is non-perishable, for use over next month, then it would make sense to use such an offer and make a real saving of $500 overall. Do not spend just because a deal is available, but always try looking for a deal when you have to spend. This means that always keep your scanners on, and even in expenses which you make routinely, keep a lookout for any seasonal or special deals, or new source or platform offering a deal that can help you save on expenses you were going to make anyway. Blind brand loyalty can cause you to take a lot of bad buying decisions. Brands are owned by corporations. Corporations work, not for philanthropy, or for moral reasons, but for profit. Just because a corporation was once known for running its business fairly and morally, does not mean it cannot, in time, grow into a tax-avoiding, power-grabbing, monopolistic, greedy and immoral corporate giant. Every time you are making a buying decision, always analyze and compare your favorite brand with other available options for value you are getting, and constantly check whether your favorite brand is worthy of your loyalty. Companies change with time, and with changes in people running them. A brand is the pretty face of a corporation, and corporation will not shy away from using it for profiting. Always critically evaluate whether your loyalty has changed you from a thinking human to a flock of sheep. Pay for the value you are getting for your money, and not for the slickness of an advertising campaign or a brand ambassador. As a matter of fact, when a product has a substantially large investment in an expensive promotional campaign, as compared to its competitors, or has a super pricey brand ambassador, it means that you are paying not just for the development, production, and distribution cost of the product or service, but also extra for the fireworks. You should also be disdainful of, and distrust any advertising that exploits your emotion, your anger, or moral values. On the other hand, you should encourage and listen to the advertising that tells you truthfully about features of the product, and what value it is giving you for your money. Emotional appeal cannot replace a true and full disclosure of facts about the product, because using facts and information, you can compare the product you are planning to buy with other options and competitors, and make an informed decision. Save yourself from becoming a victim of planned obsolescence. Stay away from brands which keep issuing new models and upgrades, like clockwork. These companies have a strategy which banks, not just on a customer's psychological compulsion to upgrade, or because it is cool to upgrade, without evaluating the true value of benefits, but, more insidiously, they build a weakness into the design of their product, which forces you to upgrade. We have included an excellent video on planned obsolescence in the playlist related to this video, which you can see at the end of the video, and in the video description below. Finally, we come to the set of ideas, where we go beyond just some clever tips and tricks to save money. What we are going to talk about now will help us evolve from merely looking at our financial behavior as an individual commercial transaction, and develop an attitude of looking at the bigger picture. The ability to think across time, and plan for future, is an evolutionary edge that has made us humans the dominant species on Earth. In a world where resources are becoming scarcer, to not plan your personal resources is counterintuitive, and can sometimes even be fatal. Instead of spending on things when they start staring at you in the face, you should develop a habit to analyze your expenditure pattern and track them in a way that puts you in control. You can start with something like Kakeibo, the Japanese method of keeping a money journal, and graduate slowly to make budgeting a way of life. Budgeting involves estimating in advance your incomes and when they will be in your hand. Based on this, you can prioritize your expenditures to fit into the money flow. This approach has dual effect. Firstly, by putting your expenses in a hierarchy, you will be able to ensure that the most critical expenses are provided for, while also weed out all unnecessary expenditure. Next, you will be able to plan investing, if there is surplus, or decide on the most affordable way to finance your expenses, in case you are falling short. By preparing for funds in this way, you will have sufficient time to look for the cheapest and most effective source of finance, as opposed to looking for financing when the time to spend is too close, and you are forced to go for a higher-priced alternative, just because it is the only one available. Cultivate a habit to plan for bad times, even when the sun is shining. As a rule of thumb, in good times, keep money at hand, to cover at least 3 months of expenses, in a form that you can immediately dip your hand into. When times are tough, and the chances of layoffs are high, increase this buffer to 6 months. If you are a business owner, and have employees and overheads to take care of, the size of this buffer should not just be sufficient to sustain you and your family, but also for sustaining your business, till you are able to put together a more comprehensive and long-term response plan. Apart from your day-to-day expenses, always start making provision and building up for contingencies. Also keep some money aside for unplanned costs that may suddenly spring up. For things for which insurance products are available in the market, like medical needs, loss of property and vehicle, theft, etc., get insurance. When buying medical insurance, it is always a good idea to separate the insurance for the old and the young, because usually inclusion of an old person or a person with existing disabilities or medical conditions can increase the total size of premium as a group. You also may have large one-time purchases for which you may need to plan finance, like buying a home, setting up a business, or providing for the college tuition of a kid. For such expenses, slowly start building up a corpus for them well in advance. When investing funds saved for such needs, never invest them in speculative or risky investments. Even when you have a job, always try to develop a parallel stream of income, unless it is against your terms of employment, or there is a conflict of interest. Sometimes, such an income stream can emerge out of a totally unrelated skill or a hobby. If nurtured correctly, one's interest can develop into a rewarding, full-time career, or a business to fall back on, in case of a loss of job. Always avoid the temptation to make a fast buck. Usually the road to making a fast buck has a lot of potholes, and has higher long-term costs. Always look out to find ways to convert a challenge into an opportunity. Earlier, we discussed how it was dangerous and risky to start a business in a recession. On the other hand, a product or a service may exactly be the right idea in a recession. While recession is a great disruptor, it is a great opportunity for a business model that is looking to disrupt the status quo. For example, an organization, or a smartphone application or an online platform, that would be useful in handling and managing your money, finding non-traditional jobs or sources of income, etc. As a matter of fact, a group, platform or an app that lets you handle any, some, or all of the things we have discussed in this video, could be an idea, the time for which has come, because it would address a market which would not have existed had it not been for the recession. Learning to invest smartly is more than just about saving and putting money away for use later. We must understand that buying an investment is just like any other purchase. When investing, you are buying future peace of mind and security. You hope to get a return on investment at some point of time in the future, by taking a calculated risk, and paying money today. For your savings you need to find a secure place to invest, that will give you good returns. Even in a bad economy, some class of investments will do better than others. If you have surplus you can spare, you may make speculative investments for higher returns. However, such an investment should never be made out of money set aside for emergencies, or some other imminent expenditure, and without understanding why that particular class is booming, despite a broader recession. Also, it is important to confirm that that particular class of asset is not in a bubble. You can check out the video on the stock market bubble to understand this better. Unless there is a serious crash on the back of some big news, which is going to have a fundamental and a long-lasting impact on the economy, do not withdraw from any class of investments too quickly. Sometimes, it may be a false scare. By withdrawing in phases, in a bubble, you can, while progressively moving your funds to a safe place, you can still ride the bubble, as values go up, till it eventually bursts. In the same way, Do not rush in to invest all your money in a new boom, as it may be a false and fabricated rise. Both withdrawal from, and entry into, any investment should be done in a phased manner. When creating an investment portfolio, spread your risk across a variety of classes of investments. Investing a large part of your wealth in security markets, derivatives and mutual funds would mean that a big part of your investment is in just one asset class, and when a fall comes, all your investments will fall simultaneously, as they are related. This is why you need to distribute your investments into classes like property, precious metals, currencies and even crypto assets, if you have a good understanding of their working. This way, you will be able to maximize the return on your investments, and also use the cyclical booms in different classes of assets and commodities to generate wealth. There are lots of things an individual can do at work, or on business or professional front, which can make them weather a slowdown better. When you have been laid off, or are in between jobs, it is always a good idea to upgrade your skills. For this, it is very important to be a lifelong learner. In the past, it was thought that the human brain loses its ability to learn with age. However, it is now acknowledged that the brain possesses a lot of plasticity, and the ability to learn new things can be maintained, even if it may not be at the same rate as a younger person. The human brain, like any other muscle, can be exercised to keep learning new skills. With growing lifespans, and rapidly changing technology and way of life, it becomes even more important to keep up the habit of learning new things. Because of this, your chances of being picked up for a new job, or a role get higher, as compared to someone who has stopped learning, and stagnated. Even when you are employed, you should always keep an eye on the future of the job, or profession you are in. With the increasing impact of artificial intelligence, and automation, it is important to assess their impact on your current job. Even without a recession, the chances of many traditional jobs and professions becoming redundant is always on the horizon, on account of the rapid evolution and symbiosis of information and technology. One of the strategies to keep yourself secure and relevant is to multitask and acquire new skills inside your organization, in addition to your core competence. As an employee, you should remember that your employer is also going through financial pressure on account of a receding or a slowing economy. This means that the employer would be forced to cut costs and downsize. By making yourself more useful and relevant, you can reduce your chances of getting laid off. If you are an employer, then you should make sure that none of your employees is irreplaceable. It is important to make sure that employees in your company multitask and routinely switch roles. This, apart from being a proven strategy of internal control, also ensures that there is no crisis of critical skills suddenly, in case the organization needs to downsize. Always share the state of your investments, any new loans or liabilities you have taken on, and your plans on future, with your partner, or other members of the family who may need to know, or be affected by it. It is as important for them to know about your liabilities, as it is about your assets, so that there are no nasty, or sudden surprises. Also, a more complete picture of the financial condition the family is in, automatically affects how prudently and responsibly they spend and live their lives. The same rule also works between you and your employees, especially in case of a small business, as your financial well-being is closely tied together. Always keep your financial, and property and investment-related records updated. File them in an orderly way, and store them in a secure place. Ensure that they are known, and accessible, apart from you, to other people, for whom this knowledge would be required. It is a good rule of thumb, that what is good for the earth and the society at large, is also economically advantageous for you as an individual. So look out for ideas to save the earth, and in them you will find solutions for your financial well-being too. At the end of this video, and in the video description below, we have put a link to a playlist of videos, which have ideas which can help further. Times of crisis are also great opportunities for social change. In the past, wars and revolutions have been instrumental in changes like emancipation of women, breakdown of imperialism, and collapse of class system. Times of financial stress are a time to review expendable practices, perpetuated in the name of traditions. To continue to carry on with a redundant practice, which is out of step with times, and also has a crippling financial impact, is foolish. Instead of bowing to coercion from social influence, or succumbing to peer pressure, if you step up, and with sincerity and conviction, make your thoughts clearly known, as to why you do not want to waste your scarce money on meaningless and regressive, social or religious festivals and ceremonies, or celebrating events or absurd special days, created and promoted by marketing industry, to induce you to spend more, and what you cannot afford to waste money on. People who really care and respect you, will understand, and admire you for it, and maybe, even follow your example. Keep fit, physically and mentally, and inculcate these values in your family and society. Keep an active lifestyle. Changes like cycling and walking, instead of driving everywhere, avoiding junk food and not snacking between meals, cooking at home and generally being more active around the house, and in your community, are far more rewarding, in multiple forms, than depending on diet supplements and drugs, or gyms and personal trainers. Being physically fit also uplifts your spirits, and prepares you to fight. With the cost of healthcare becoming more and more prohibitive, and with governments slowly backing off from their responsibilities for providing for the well-being of masses, under pressure from big pharma industry means that avoiding and delaying lifestyle-related medical costs can mean a lot for your financial health, and can have substantial and enduring financial benefits for you. Psychological health is just as important a factor as physical health. Practicing meditation helps you in developing your ability to step back and reflect, keep calm under stress, and think logically, analytically and coherently. These qualities are essential to be able to plan, and also gives you strength of character to make changes to your life. Have trust in the goodness of people. When in a difficulty, always reach out to people who you trust, and who you have helped in the past. Most of the times, an unfounded sense of distrust and pride holds us back from approaching people who would be more than willing and happy to be of help to us. People turn out to be a lot nicer than we most of the times give them credit for. On the other side, testing times also show us who our true friends are. In times like an all-round recession, we realize the importance of coming together and being a community. As everyone is affected to some degree, they are in a better state of mind to empathize with others, which breeds understanding and cooperation. Finally, we come to those who need to know what we discussed just now the most: our children. As important as it is, teaching things like how to safely cross a road, or how to remain secure when outside home, is to teach young girls and boys fiscal responsibility, and the significance of waste not, want not. As much as we have a duty to shield children from unpleasant experiences, it is equally important to prepare them for a life as adults, by educating them on the value of money, how it works, and the importance of pulling together as a cohesive unit. Kids see, hear, and know far more than we think they do, and will often surprise you if you treat them with the respect and maturity they deserve and expect. Given the fact that our kids are the ones who will be at the forefront of the battle of a challenging future, which is brought upon them, to be honest, largely by excesses of us adults, it becomes our moral duty to equip our children with the tools and values which will be indispensable for success in their lives ahead. More than anything you can give as an adult, this knowledge and way of living life will be of value for them the most, and will be the reason they will remember you for. So, in conclusion, while what we have discussed here was about things people can do, and changes they can make, to weather a financially stressful phase, most of these practices, values, and the approach to life, are actually universal. They are just as relevant to living life of financial well-being, whether it be times of an economic slowdown and recession, or good times. As they say, while it is important to have money for what money can buy, it is equally important to guard zealously what money cannot buy. This video was based on the blog post, How to Survive an Economic Slowdown or Recession, from the blog site, readingbetweenthelie.com. If you prefer reading, the link to the post is given in the video description below. We hope you found this presentation of interest and of value. If you know of, or have put in practice, some tips or practices, which can help people attain a higher level of financial responsibility and security, it would be nice if you could add them in the comments section below, so that more value is added for viewers who watch the video later. Also, you can take a look at the playlist, where we have tried to put some videos related to the topic, which we plan to keep updating, as and when we find more good videos related to this theme. The link to the Hindi language version of this video is given at the end of the video, and in the video description. If you liked our work, give us a thumbs up by clicking the like button. Please share the video with someone you know, who you think would find these ideas useful. Also, please subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon, to get notified whenever we post a new video. In case you want to give us your feedback or a suggestion, please let us know in the section for comments below. Until later, have a great day.